What if a piece of clay buried for over 2,000 years could challenge a belief still taught today? This isn't a rumor. It isn't speculation. It's a diary written in stone. The Babylonian astronomer recorded the position of the moon and 5 planets. And today we can check his work. We can rewind the sky. And what we find raises serious questions. What happens when belief and measurable reality don't line up? At first, this may sound like ancient history, but it isn't, because this timeline is connected to authority, identity, and truth. For some, it influences major life decisions, relationships, community. So this isn't just about when something happened. It's about what happens if the date is wrong. If a belief is built on a specific date, and that date changes, what happens to everything built on it? Because there is a gap. Not symbolic, not interpretive. 20 years. For us to continue bringing you more deep dives like this, subscribe and smash the notice bell so that we can dedicate more time bringing you more deep dives that challenge the standard narrative. I am Dr. K, and I'm a theologian.
Would you like an easy way to keep the generations straight? An easy way is to consider the situation of Brother Fred W. Franz. Now, you'll see that he's FWF on the chart. Now, as we said before, Brother Franz was born in 1893. He was baptized in November of 1913. So, as one of the Lord's anointed in 1914, he saw the sign and he understood what the sign meant. Now, Brother Franz lived a long life. He finished his earthly course at 99 years of age in 1992. Now, do you know of many who were of the anointed in 1914 and who outlived Brother Franz? There may have been some, but not many. Now, just for the sake of argument, suppose that we assume that Brother Franz was the last of that first group of anointed ones. That is, the group of anointed ones who were anointed in 1914, who saw the sign, and then continued serving faithfully. Now, we're not saying Brother Franz was. We just don't know. But for the sake of argument, let's suppose. In order to be part of this generation, someone would have had to have been anointed before 1992.
And when the questions about this gap started growing, a response came in 2011. An explanation that seems convincing at first, but only if you don't look closely. Let's simplify this. Look at the universe as a giant clock. The moon, that's a second hand. Fast, constantly moving. The planets, they are slower, much slower, like the hour hand. If you record the moon's position, Jupiter, Saturn, Mars, Venus, Mercury, all at once, you are creating a combination. And the exact combination doesn't repeat often, the tablet. On this tablet, VAT 4956, there are around 30 recorded observations, not guesses, measurements. Today, astronomers can simulate the sky backward. So the question becomes, when did the sky match all these observations? The result. The answer consistently points to 568-567 BCE. That corresponds to the 37th year of the Babylonian king. Count backward. You arrive at 587 BCE. If this alignment is correct, then the timeline shifts. And if timeline shifts, everything connected to it must be re-examined.
When were God's people held captive by Babylon the Great? That spiritual captivity lasted from the 2nd century of our Common Era to 1919, when anointed Christians were gathered into the restored congregation. God's people were tested and refined during the years following the establishment of God's kingdom in the heavens in 1914. Then, in 1919, Jesus appointed the faithful and discreet slave over God's cleansed people to give them spiritual food at the proper time.
I cannot believe we gave it all away. Look at this bank book.
We have nothing left. Nothing. And they said 1914 was the absolute end.
The human story. But for one man, this wasn't just a story. It was personal. Carl Olof Jonsson wasn't an outsider. He was deeply committed, a pioneer, an elder, someone who didn't just believe, but taught others to believe. His journey didn't begin with doubt. It began with a question that was asked by somebody who was teaching the Bible to. He expected the answer to strengthen his faith. Instead, the deeper he looked, the more difficult the question became. He examined historical records, archaeological findings, astronomical data, piece by piece, carefully. Then he encountered astronomical evidence, not opinions, not interpretations, data. And that's when the question changed. It was no longer, is evidence accurate? It became, if this is accurate, what does it mean? Because for him, this wasn't theoretical. It affected what he taught, what he stood for, his position in the community. When belief is tied to a date, and that date moves, everything attached to it moves too.
Following the establishment of God's kingdom in the heavens in 1914. Then, in 1919, Jesus appointed the faithful and discreet slave.
While times are closing in 1914, the kingdom is nigh. Everything must be sold, brethren. Prepare for the harvest.
The 2011 response. As the questions became more common, a response was published in 2011 by the Watchtower Society. It addressed the tablet and focused on specific details. The lunar observations were presented as flexible, which can be the moon moves quickly, but planet Saturn moves slowly, very slowly, which makes it extremely reliable. If planet Saturn doesn't match, the entire alignment shifts. It's like focusing on the seconds of the clock, while the hour hand is pointing somewhere else entirely. The question becomes, how should conflicting pieces of evidence be weighed? The final check, lunar eclipse. There is one detail, the lunar eclipse recorded in the same period. Astronomers can calculate every lunar eclipse across thousands of years, so we can check. One timeline aligns clearly with the recorded event. The sky doesn't adjust to match belief. It simply records what happened. So where does that leave us? Not with a conclusion that everyone agrees on, but with a question worth asking. How should belief interact with evidence? Is the truth something we defend or something we follow wherever it leads? In the next episode, we dig deeper in the story of Carl Olof Jonsson. What happened when he raised these questions? How were they received? And what does that reveal about the authority and dissent? If you've watched this far, I would really like to hear your thoughts. Do you think evidence like this should change beliefs? Or should beliefs change how we interpret evidence? Let me know in the comment. If this video has resonated with you, kindly like, subscribe, and smash the notice bell so that when we upload episode 3, you receive a notification. If you did not watch part 1 of this episode, click on this link.